For me personally, it's never writer's block. I am not Formica, one of the people who has never suffered from writer's block. My problem is quite the opposite. If God granted me 100 years on this earth, I would never be able to write all the stories that I already have written down in drawers and things like that about what I'd like to do. In this one of these little stupid devices, I have a thing that I started that it was called Book, just book, a little category, and I would, every time an idea came to me for a book or a story or a movie or whatever, a play, I would jot it in there. There's a limit that these things have, like you reach the limit and like you can't do it anymore. I'm on 6, book 6. Those are just ideas for books or for stories I've never gotten to, and I'm sure I never will. I mean, I'm too old already, you know, but I take my time between my books, well, partly because after Tuesdays with Morrie, it was like getting hit with a shovel. I didn't know what to do next. That wasn't supposed to be a big book. That wasn't supposed to be any kind of book. I just wrote it to pay Morrie's medical bills. And most of the people who had a chance to hear it turned it down. It was said no to quite rudely by a lot of publishers who thought it was just a waste of time and that I couldn't write anything like that. So when it became what it did, it was just sort of overwhelming. And I imagine, you know, people like the woman who wrote the book, The Help, or they're probably going through those same kind of things, like, whoa, you know, now what? Because everyone is expecting you to do something of equal size or scope, and you weren't even aiming for that scope to begin with, so how could you aim for something of equal size or scope? So I think, to be honest, I was probably a little paralyzed after that, and it took me 6 years to write anything else. And when I did, I wrote a novel, which everybody told me I was nuts, and that was the dumbest thing to do because, you know, you had a success with a nonfiction book. Why don't you just write Wednesdays with Morrie? That's what everybody wanted me to write. And I just felt like, well, that's the obvious thing to do, and I don't want to do the obvious thing, and I don't want to treat Tuesdays with Morrie like some kind of ticket. You know, I was lucky to have that experience. I was blessed to have that experience, and it wasn't supposed to turn into a cottage industry. And that's why I turned down all requests for sequels and, oh my gosh, you know, calendars and dolls and philosophy things and this and that. I mean, you name it, they came up with it for Tuesdays with Morrie, what they wanted to turn it into an industry. And I turned down all of it. The only thing we did was make a movie, and I wrote a play, which I thought the play has lived on in many, many countries, and I'm happy about that play. It's a nice representation. It's 2 people on stage, very much like what actually took place. So I think what I was waiting for was for something to hit me as strongly as the idea of Tuesdays with Morrie hit me, where it was kind of in my gut, and I said, this has to come out. I've been thinking about it so much, and as I said a little earlier, I think other people might find this interesting, might find this experience interesting, might find the story interesting. So with the 5 people you meet in heaven, even though it was a fantastical story and a magical story, and obviously it was unique to my, you know, brain or whatever, but the idea of someone who doesn't think that he matters and getting to heaven and finding out that he mattered an enormous amount is a pretty universal idea. And I think all of us would like to feel that way. And so I wait for themes like that to hit me, and then a story to match that theme. And when I find it, then I think it's time to write again. Generally, that's been at least 3 years. I laughed when you asked me the question because my publisher says the same thing. You know, you take a lot of time in between books, and it's not, I guess, business-wise, it's not a smart thing to do. And I haven't been very smart business-wise, I'm told, because you're supposed to write when the iron is hot. You know, I don't look at it as weapon making, you know, and I don't look at it as an iron. Books wouldn't come out right if I was rushing them, and so I go as fast as I can, but I never start writing anything until I feel that there's a theme there that other people are going to find interesting, and I'm going to find emotional and interesting, and I can bring something to it. This new book that I'm writing, which will be out next September, is about time. And it's about this rush that we feel that we have for time. Everybody has it, you know, and this watches and PDAs and phones, and you know, and where did all this come from? That we're measuring our time. We're the only people, we're the only things on earth that measure time. An animal doesn't measure his time. A deer chewing on a leaf, you know, doesn't think if it's Tuesday or Wednesday or how much time do I have left or whatever. Man is the only creature that marks his time, and as a result, he's the only creature that suffers from a fear of it running out. Now think about that. If we hadn't learned how to measure it, we probably wouldn't be so consumed about, oh my God, I only have so much time left. So maybe there's something there. And so, you know, I am a victim of that, and I've lived my life like that, unfortunately, too much. And so I said, well, I know it matters to me. And maybe, you know, is this something that matters? Yeah, I think we probably are in a world where no matter where you are, whatever country you live in, this idea of how am I spending my time and how am I measuring my time and do I feel like imprisoned by time is pretty universal.